Giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, and wherever you may be. To you I say Shalom, Yeshua, Shalom. Alright, this is a quick little article here. I mean, it's really a screenshot it because that's all there is to the article anyways. So it says, fuel shock imperils trucking's fragile recovery as geopolitics hits home. Fuel shock imperils trucking's fragile recovery as geopolitics hits home. All right, and we all know this is a result of the current ongoing war. So it says a sudden spike in diesel prices triggered by Middle East conflict threatens to derail the U.S. trucking industry's fragile recovery from a multi-year freight recession. All right, so they're saying that the truckers have been trying to recover from, several years of so-called, I guess they said, but anyways, a recession, a trucking recession it is. And now with the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, and everybody's talking about the gas prices going up, it's also affecting, obviously the prices of gas because, the most expensive gas, if I'm correct, is the diesel. All right. And so if all the regular gas is going up, what more the diesel when the diesel is already expensive? And so this is now starting to be in effect on the trucking industry, which obviously ties into the economy, right? It says independent owner operators already operating on thin margins are particularly vulnerable as they lack the pricing power of large carriers to immediately offset soaring fuel costs. The price surge exacerbates existing challenges, including a prolonged shift in consumer spending from goods to services and an oversupply of drivers competing for limited freight. Economists warn that sustained high fuel prices could weaken freight demand further. All right. And this is, the bottom. Well, there's more to it, but really we only need the small portion there in this top half here. So it says a sudden spike in diesel prices triggered in Middle East conflict threats to which is what we just read. So I just jumped down to where it got cut off. So yeah, consumer spending from goods to services and an oversupply of drivers competing for limited freight. All right, so limited freight. It's just like when you had those bridges that kept getting collapsed because they weren't doing it on their own, trains derailing and stuff like that. All right, these were all things that were affecting the economy because you have, which is beautiful because that ties in with Revelation 18 chapter, because America basically is a cash cow to these other countries. And so you have a whole lot more product that comes into America from abroad than being exported into foreign countries. Okay, so when shipping containers can't reach their destination, that causes for a stop of goods entering into stores and going on shelves and things of that nature. All right, in Babylon. Okay, so it says economists warn that sustained high fuel prices could weaken freight demand further by acting as a stealth tax on consumer spending and delaying potential Federal Reserve interest rate cuts. Analysts say the industry's underlying supply side corrections remain, but the anticipated demand-led recovery is now at risk of being significantly delayed, just as the American trucking industry began to glimpse a path out of a punishing 3-year freight recession. A geopolitical crisis half a world away has delivered a severe blow. A rapid spike in diesel fuel prices triggered, and this is something we used to say all the time, probably a couple years ago, okay, where we would always say that camp, but speaking to these Babylonians here, not knowing that things that happen across seas do affect you here in America. You may think it doesn't because your life goes on as normal and you're still able to do this, that, and the third thing. But things that happen across seas, not every single thing, but there's certain things that will happen across seas that do affect the people here in America. All right, and that's something that they're starting to realize now with this Strait of Hormuz. All right, that affects you here in America, though the so-called crisis is back east. All right. A rapid spike in diesel fuel prices triggered by U.S.-Iranian hostilities disrupting global oil flows is now threatening to push thousands of independent trucking companies toward insolvency. The crisis underscores how international conflict can swiftly translate into existential economic pressure on a foundational domestic industry. Yeah, they use that word, existential crisis, right? Well, that's what they're talking about here, right? Maybe I'll read this next paragraph. So, the foundation of a fragile recovery. Prior to the late February escalation in the Middle East, the trucking sector was experiencing a cautious upturn. This was not a story of booming demand, but of brutal supply side correction. Years of weak freight volumes, driven by a post-pandemic consumer shift towards spending on services rather than goods, have forced a wave of carrier bankruptcies and suppressed a new fleet investment, with excess capacity slowly bleeding from the market. Spot rates began a tentative climb. Analysts pointed to a rebalancing, a fragile inflection point where the industry could finally begin to rebuild margins after a long downturn. Yeah, but that has now been halted because of this ongoing war, which just started up. All right. So that's pretty much it on that. That was the headline again. Fuel shock imperils trucking's fragile recovery as geopolitics hit home. And I want to just grab a couple scriptures here. I can get rid of that. Zechariah 8:10. For before these days there was no hire for man, nor any hire for beast. Neither was there any peace to him that went out or came in because of the affliction. For I set all men, every one against his neighbor. And this is what we're warning you Babylonians, which we're going to go to Isaiah 19. Wasn't expected to get to the top of the chapter, but I will quote it, where it says, I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. That's talking about you Americans against the Americans. As it says in Matthew 24, that the love of many shall wax cold. Okay, so you have people who just, lie-da-di-da, going about their life, okay, not knowing that the Lord is strategically setting up, this economy to erupt into chaos, in which you people are going to be pit one against another. Okay, only the servants of the Lord will be protected. All right, Lord will be of that number. But you Babylonians, which does include 2/3 of our own people, you will be at each other's necks. Some of you will be starving, and other things will happen. All right. And this is what we're warning you, okay? And we always talk about this. See, there you go. See, I wasn't expecting mentioning that, but the microchip, man, Revelation 13, the microchip, and we always talk about this, how two major things in war is money, because you need money to fuel the war, all right, to feed the war's belly, but then you also need sustenance, food, okay? And so what Esau is doing, which is all, he's controlled by the Lord, but I'm just making a point. He's taking the money and the food, two different weapons, and putting them together as one. And so he has a very dangerous weapon, because in order to survive, you need food. But in order to get the food, you need to purchase the food. And then eventually the money goes digital, and bam, trap, snare, you see? And this is what this is chaos is what this is leading up to. All these situations that are happening, whether globally or just in home in Babylon, they're leading up to Babylon the Great being in chaos, and Esau eventually saying, "I have the answer, which is my microchip." And at the current state of the people, they're gonna say, "Okay, cool, all right, I'm with it," because they're gonna be so desperate. So mind you talking about, you talking about people who some of these people who take the microchip would be, especially you women, would be people who've already eaten their children, their newborn baby or something like that. See? And then turn around and still take the C hip. Let me see what the NLT says. Because I'm on my tablet today, not my phone. I have the AMP on my phone on the split screen, but on the split screen on my tablet, there's the NLT. So the NLT reads, "Before the work on the temple began, there were no jobs and no money to hire people or animals. No traveler was safe from the enemy, for there were enemies on all sides. I had turned everyone against each other." Okay. And there was a time when you look into our past that enemies try to stop us. You have Sanballat and Haman, different names like that try to stop us from from that decree of Cyrus. And what's happening right now in the side of the world? The third temple is being built, which is a spiritual temple, and it starts with 144,000 men, whoever they may be. And then the faithful believers are the men, women, and children, all right, whom believe in the Lord. See? And so we're living in the biggest time of chaos. Let me get probably about to wrap this up because I got itching ears over here. You know how that is. I'm sitting in my car and I'm baking in this mug, dude. Isaiah 19 Isaiah 19:14. Yahweh hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt. What's Egypt talking about? Not ancient Egypt, because if Isaiah was living way after ancient Egypt, he couldn't be talking about ancient Egypt. It doesn't make sense, because he's talking about spiritual Egypt, which is America, Babylon the Great, the West. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, for America, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. Now, the reason why I'm reading the scripture is based off the article that we read. All right, truckers. All right, if truckers can't buy the fuel they need to transport and travel, the trucks don't move. And this is not the first time we experienced something like that, but there's coming a time period where this thing is going to be permanent. Like we mentioned before, they were crashing those bridges and stuff like that. Those shipping containers were getting, stopped. Okay, Esau was actually deleting people just to create a crisis to affect the economy. See, but it's going to come to a point where these things are going to be permanent. All right, all things are going to stop, and then what happens? Then we talked about this before, because I worked retail before. Some of us may have worked retail out there, right? So when you work in a whether it be a small store or a big store, you have what you call is back stock. So the things that you see the people, stocking up the shelves with their carts or whatever, they're bringing those things out of the back of the store. And then the trucks bring in new, more items, and they're counted as back stock, okay? Because there's not enough space on the shelf to place them, so they're stored in the back of the store. Okay, now trouble comes when, this is why you see a whole lot of people, like some stores, their shelves are all jumbled up because they have so much back stock, and the truck doesn't stop coming in. They have so much back stock, they got to start stuffing these things on shelves and try to make them, so people can buy them, so get them off the shelf, because they don't have space for it. You can't just stay in the back of the store, and it just can't stay on the shelf. They need to sell. But getting back to the point, back stock are the things that they keep in the back of the store to restock the shelves at the front of the store. So once the shelves at the front of the store run out, the back stock comes into play, okay? And then once the back stock runs out, that's it. And why does it run out? Because there were no trucks to deliver anything. See? So this is about to be a permanent state of Babylon the Great, where no one's going to have anything to stock up any stores. And that what did that go to? It leads right into a famine. First a shortage, and then eventually to an actual complete famine, like it says in Lamentations 4. All right, it'd be better to die by the sword than by famine, because these pine away strictly through for the wants of the field. So neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. In that day shall Egypt be like unto women, and it shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of Yahweh of hosts, which he shaketh over it. See, because that's called judgment. That's the Lord punishing this place. Right. I guess I'll read the NLT and we'll close. Yahweh sent a spirit of foolishness on them. Wow. So all their suggestions are wrong. They cause Egypt to stagger like a drunk in his vomit. There is nothing Egypt can do. All are helpless. The head and the tail, the noble palm branch, and the lowly reed. Yep, see, doesn't matter your social status. All right, like it says, going back to Revelation 13 again. Okay, what it speaks about doesn't pretty much, part of it doesn't matter about your social status, your class, how much money you do or don't have, whether you're part of the rich, the middle class, the poor, all right, or the straight homeless. Everybody's about to be placed in one category, and the elites are at the top. Okay. In that day, the Egyptians will be as weak as women. They will cower in fear beneath the upraised fist of Yahweh of heaven's armies. Boom. Beautiful. All right, because once again, as we just said, that's the judgment coming. Like he says in 2 Esdras chapter 9, the Lord is visiting the earth which he made. All right. So I'm going to leave it at that. Just something quick. Lord, will you edify? Shalom.